Good evening, good morning, Art 11 sculpture class. This is the second day of school, so we're all kind of trying to still figure this out. I wanted to start this semester a little bit slow since there's still a lot of people adding and dropping and figuring out what this virtual world is all about. So just hang in there and follow the instructions carefully. If you did not comment on the lecture on Tuesday morning, please do so so you can get attendance credit. So if you have not commented on the first lecture, please do so. Also, if you have not shared a video and commented on other students' video, their introduction of themselves, I really enjoyed them. It's good to understand who's in the class, face to face, we feel each other. There's visual communication, right? Where we kind of pick up on each other's body language. There's just so many different ways that we communicate as human beings that does not use language. I'm going to go over the next assignments that's going to be due on Saturday midnight and a little bit more of some slides show so you can start slowly being introduced to the sculpture class, and then I'm going to go over the required materials that you need by Tuesday next week. And so I'm just going to cover these really basic things. And so let me just share the screen real quick. The first day of school, we went over really briefly, right? The crazy history of art and how art helps to establish a sense of truth for that society that's celebrating that work. We went from 30,000 years ago to contemporary art from today, just to show the contrast of the kind of work that's being created, right? Henry Moore, and then some art from the 70s. We looked at some land art, artists that are very connected to nature, and their commentary is a little bit more, I don't know, we'll talk about land earthwork to see how you translate. It has to do with relationship to time, it has to do with the cycles of life, of accepting birth and death as a beautiful part of our own existence. It's seeing our body connected to everything around us, how everything is temporary, right? We're going to look at the work of Andy Goldsworthy and how he uses natural materials to create his artwork that eventually self-destruct with nature. So, for instance, this piece melts. He spent the whole night making it without tools, with just the heat of his body, just to watch it melt as the sun rises. This is the Terracotta Army, discovered buried in China. Hundreds of thousands of life-size, realistic soldiers that were buried. We're going to go over this work a lot. I'm briefly going over this work so that we understand how different societies saw themselves, and we get to understand that through the sculptures that they made. And so part of this class is going to be us trying to figure out how we see ourselves as a society, as individuals, whether through race, gender, class, ethnicity, or as a whole of humanity, depending on your lens, your point of view. And it's really hard to begin with. And sometimes the easiest way to begin with is to see what's material is just readily available to you. This piece is over in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, is a giant Christ. And so a lot of these pieces kind of has us wonder why spend so much money, so much effort to create these long, large statues that establish a certain truth for that society. We have these hundreds of army um, clay, terracotta, dirt statues buried because the idea was that they would accompany you in the afterlife. And then we have the Christ that is believed to return for its born again people, right? And there's a lot of different ways to believe that. It's taught in many different ways, depending on what kind of religion you follow. But who's to say what is more absurd or what is more real or what is more closer to reality? Um, Giacometti, who questioned logic, who said existentialism believed that there was no divine intervention, that we were alone as mankind, that we were just flesh and bones. Um, the Aztecs or the Mayans that believed that we were living in a dream, a hallucination, and that when we die, we really wake up. The Renaissance were humanists. They believed that we had the potential to fix our social problems if we centered our problems on humans and the humans' ability to create and control our societies, right? Andy Goldsworthy, more of a acceptance of the natural order of things, kind of paying homage to nature as a whole. Who's to say who's right or who's wrong? Catholicism that spread throughout the world, part of a way to dominate and control natural resources in the Americas. We're talking about colonization. Here's a giant Christ in Arkansas. A humongous Buddha. What are these governments or private entities trying to establish when they create these huge monuments, these sculptures? What are they trying to tell us as a society? Here's another one. Beautiful pieces, giant pieces. What are they trying to communicate to us? This is part of learning how to look at artwork and try to understand what the artwork is trying to tell us. So when we start to critique our own work, we're going to be able to kind of play the detective and trying to get some hints, create some associations to the images, to the texture, to the color, to the emotional quality of the piece. Is it magical? Is it surreal? Is it you know, more towards naturalism or abstraction? Here's another piece, a bronze piece from India, the 12th century. A little bit more sensual, right? A little bit more connected to sexuality. We have these tiny little figures. This is one of the projects that we're going to take on, create little tiny figures and try to place them around parking lots or whatever to make a statement on social distancing, the lockdown, isolation. What is this artist trying to say about these little tiny ceramic figures that he places around town? George Siegel, he plastered humans, and these become permanent installations in New York. There's a certain kind of solitude in these figures, and why do you think he decides to leave them white? What is this pure whiteness in the material might suggest. These are things to think about. Does it give them a more of a collective identity? Does it strip them away from individuality? Does it make them feel more lonely if they have no real color to them? Let's look at this image real quick. Try to take a second to try to decode what's going on. Remember, just think it's a snapshot of something, and then you're going to try to figure out what the story is behind this sculpture. Um, First thing we can do is we can start calling out what we see. We see a mattress on the floor. What does a mattress on the floor might suggest? Squatting, poverty, maybe nomadic, moving from place to place. It could mean a new beginning. You're just moving into a new place. It could be very positive, or it could be a dark place. And then you have this kind of intimacy going on. One figure has his hand on the leg while she's kind of a little bit leaning back, maybe holding her balance. And there's a very intimate conversation happening. So there we start constructing the meaning of this sculpture based on our own personal experiences. Have you ever been squatting in an apartment? Have you ever snuck into an abandoned house? Have you ever experienced this level of poverty where you or your loved one had to sleep on floors? Have you ever been in love where none of that mattered as long as you were with the person that you were really in love with at that time? So this is when we start looking at sculpture based around on our own experiences. Here's a piece for you mothers. I think that intuition that something's wrong, and then the scale, this giant figure laying down, only amplifies that worry some. Um, and then we have Anthony Gormley that we're going to look at his work as well. Um, Still really heavily involved in the human figure. So we're not going to be doing sculptures specifically like these, but these are definitely things that we can look at when we're thinking about our final projects. Our first projects are going to be more strictly with the recipe, just to get into the material, right, and learn some observational skills. And then we're going to start navigating away from that and more into your own personal language and what excites you about certain sculptural objects. Ana Mendieta, Cuban artist that used her body as a sculptural element in performance and land art. All right, materials, really quick. I'm going to jump to materials and then I'm going to jump to next week's assignment. You can go ahead and go to, where am I at? Modules. There's a materials list on week 1. Very simple to begin with. I'm going to be asking you guys to buy more materials later on in the semester, but this is what we need now. We have the Enclaimix ceramic store. You got to give them a call when you're there and ask for the Long Beach or Vegas buff ceramic clay, cone 10. It's about 13 bucks. There's the address. And some sculpting tools. I can't tell you exactly what to get. I need you to do a little research online and purchase some things online. You could also go to Michael's to get them. You can get them at Claymix, but they're a little bit more pricey. You can get something online like this whole kit for like $7. Um, you need to have them by Tuesday, so you would have to order them today or tomorrow, or go to the stores today or tomorrow this weekend. There's the block of clay, and then you're gonna get this plaster cloth. It's like what's used to, cast your leg when you break it. And then just some other supplies you'll need: some scissors, white poster board, a regular poster board you can get at the dollar store, 5-gallon trash bag. The trash bag is just to cover our clay so it doesn't dry when we're not using it. Tape and a sketchbook, 9 by 12 hardcover sketchbook that we're going to be using both for assignments and for kind of gathering ideas. Here's a sketchbook. It's a hardcover. I don't really prefer the ring because they'll eventually rip off. There's really nice ones without the rings. But for the sake of assignments, it's a good way to just uh, take a picture of it, right? Really flat. Take a picture of it and submit it. So go ahead and get the ring side to be able to do that. We're going to be really counting on the sketchbooks to turn in assignments as far as how you're thinking about your ideas, the materials. We're going to have some writing, just not writing, but kind of thinking about memories, thinking about your ancestors, thinking about traumatic experiences, thinking about all these different things that kind of defined who we think we are. And we're going to slowly start to deconstruct those ideas and hopefully make some really powerful sculptures out of it. And that brings me to this week's next assignment. So remember, there are about 2 assignments a week. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again. So go ahead and go to modules. You're going to go to, it's still on week 1. And here's assignment number 2, 15 points. Remember, these assignments will add up. The purpose of this film, so we're going to watch a film in the weekend, and we are going to write about it. I know it's a sculpture class. We're going to have very little written assignments. So chill out. Don't trip. It's just you writing down what you thought of it. The purpose of this film is to see how other cultures feel, express, and function. So remember, we're thinking about sculpture and how other cultures think about truth. Um, if you have a passport, you're very fortunate to use it. It's kind of like traveling into different universes. One time I landed in India, and it humbles you, it changes you. It kind of helps with that level of empathy that we have as part of our genes, it is said to be, where we are able to put ourselves in the positions of other people and understand the world through their lens, or at least imagine understanding reality through a different perspective. I think it's extremely needed right now. Um, and so from India to Malaysia to the Philippines, um, to France, to Paris, to Brazil, all these places to travel that really shape, challenge the way you think about yourself and about your society, about your values, right? Think about art as the use of fabric, fashion, ritual, dance, temples, and statues, sculpture, religion, as storytelling, and theater. So um, think about what you're seeing civilizations do as art. Don't think art as something that belongs in a museum. Don't think art is something that is cool or sells for a lot of money. Let's get rid of that notion of art being an object. Let's think of art as being how society manifests itself through culture. And so we're thinking about our dance, our music, our fashion, our rituals, um, all that stuff for me is what art is. And some artists use that information to create really beautiful art pieces that we can look at, right? And that's what we're going to try to do. Look at technology, landscapes, and how different societies participate in their realities in completely different forms. Learn how to observe the world without your own personal lens. So you're going to detach yourself and you're going to be like, instead of being judgmental, you're going to try to be like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And you're going to try to talk about why. Pretend that you are traveling the galaxy and happen to land in this strange and extraordinary planet Earth. We can experience the world and build empathy, understanding, and other ways of thinking through a visual language. There are no words to this film, but yet it is a powerful expression of a global human experience with such diverse points of view. So, when we're doing that, it doesn't mean that you're forfeiting your moral values, your religious beliefs. It doesn't mean that you're bearing what your ancestors taught you, what your parents taught you. It doesn't mean that you are denying any religious convictions that you might truly hold. We can still experience the world through different eyes without um, feeling threatened about our own value systems. This happens a lot with religious fundamentalists, whether it be the Taliban or fundamentalist Christians or any other even atheist beliefs. Any side of the spectrum, um, sometimes people feel threatened of that their own value systems are going to be destroyed when we try to understand other people, and that's what creates a lot of the violence that we're seeing right now. Um, Respond to the art that you see, the body language, the architectural environment. Questions to ask: what is better? What is civilized? What is normal? What is strange? Why do people believe what they do? You're not going to write an essay or a novel or a book or your PhD dissertation. This is just you just responding with 500 words, 2 paragraphs or so. Doesn't have to be too formal. Um, and you're going to submit it as a Word attachment. Write your name, class section, and title of the paper. Be honest, insightful, and descriptive. And here's a free link to the movie. I'm going to play just a short little part for you to get an idea of what I'm talking about. But anyways, the movie is pretty long. Take your time, you know, get comfy, get some popcorn. This is part of art, to look at film and critique film. All right, please comment on this lecture with 3 comments or 3 questions or any variation of that, so that you can get credit for attending. I really have to figure out how to do this, because last semester we were synchronized, so I could just see your little box there and give you credit for being here. You would actually engage. But this semester we're doing it this way. So go ahead and comment, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about you guys. All right.